From calling out Brock Lesnar multiple times for a fight, to saying that he would embarrass him if they fought, here's everything you need to know about the potential Jon Jones versus Brock Lesnar matchup. And what's a better way to start than going back to when Bones called out Brock Lesnar in 2017? See, after his win against Daniel Cormier at UFC 214, Jones dropped a bomb on the whole UFC fan base.
Brock Lesnar. If you want to know what it feels like to get your kicked by a guy who weighs 40 pounds less than you, meet me in the octagon.
He called out Brock Lesnar for a fight. Jones said if Brock wants to know how it feels like to get beaten by someone who's 40 pounds lighter than him, then he should meet him in the octagon. Now, this is a dream fight for most of the UFC fans, and the way Bones called Brock out was massive. It finally felt like we're going to see our dream matchup. Lesnar even responded to that call out by Jones. Be careful what you wish for, young man. Ouch. Lesnar clearly wasn't backing out from the fight, but the problem was that he was signed with the WWE at the time, and his contract made it impossible for him to appear in the octagon. Jones even said that both of them were seriously considering that fight, and that it would be massive for the sport. But then, nothing happened until 2019. See, the rumor mill lit up once again when WWE legend Kurt Angle talked about Lesnar versus Jones in an interview. Angle said that everyone knows Brock retired from MMA, but there's still one fight for which he's ready to make a comeback, and that's the one against Jon Jones. Angle said this is the fight that Lesnar really wants. He also mentioned that both fighters are built completely differently, but said that Brock's a freak.
Randy trying to survive. He's a short little shot, and it's all over. Brock Lesnar is the new UFC heavyweight champion.
And of course, how could Bones stay quiet about this one? And he took to Twitter to respond to Kurt. Jones wrote that Brock is a little too slow and that he would embarrass Brock in a fight. Yikes. But still, there was nothing from the fighters or UFC. No efforts to actually make that fight a reality. But then Dana White stepped in. The UFC Supremo shared his opinion on the fight at the Contender Series press conference in 2020.
Listen, if they both want to fight each other, I'm sure it's a fight that the fans would want to see, and it would be a good introduction for Jones into the heavyweight division. So, yeah, if they wanted to do it, I would do it.
He said that he has no idea if Brock plans to return to the octagon ever again, but he's willing to book the fight if both guys are up for it. And at the time, White was hoping that it would be a great fight to kick off Jones's heavyweight career. However, that didn't happen in 2020, and that's surely not going to happen in 2023, because Jones has already been introduced to the heavyweight division, and we all know what kind of an introduction it was.
Towards the right. Good job of getting height here. He's putting pressure.
But recently in the past few days, there's been a lot of talk about this fight once again, especially from Jones's side, because from what he said, it looks like he still wants to face him. When asked about the potential matchup with Brock Lesnar, Bones replied, "Never say never. It's a great thing that Jones isn't letting it go. Like, we all want to see this fight, right? Don't you?" The more this fight is talked about, the more likely it is to happen. A few days ago, Jones was asked again about his fight against Brock, and he said that he's up for it. The good thing is that Jones is aware of the fact that Brock has a huge fan base. He also knows that Brock's a lot bigger than him, but he also knows a thing or two about what Lesnar isn't. Lesnar isn't the most technical fighter out there, and Jones is aware of the fact.
I don't know what happened, but he's got a cut.
Might have been one of those jabs of Brock Lesnar's. And again they connect.
Big knee to the body.
And answered by Lesnar.
Bones said that it would have been really cool to fight Lesnar at the time. It would have been a massive event, and both of them would have made a lot of money through this one fight. These two would have done big things for their families and their teams financially, and he's totally right. Brock Lesnar versus Jon Jones is gonna sell like crazy, and Jones has definitely left the door open with his statement. So the ball's in Lesnar's court now, but right now it isn't possible because Brock is with WWE, and now he's preparing for his WrestleMania matchup in April. I don't think that WWE will actually allow him to fight inside the octagon while being under contract with them, but this fight might become a possibility. Lesnar may have hinted at retirement from WWE, which opens the doors for Brock versus Jones. A couple of weeks ago, it was reported that Lesnar was saying goodbye to people in an episode of Raw. We've heard him say many times that he's looking to finish things up with the WWE, and now might be the time for him. However, it's still not clear whether he's retiring retiring from pro wrestling or his WWE contract is expiring. But we fans don't care if it's either of those two. If this means that we're finally going to see Lesnar versus Jones, then I'll take it. I personally wouldn't mind him retiring from anywhere to make this fight happen. Lesnar, who hasn't competed in the Octagon since 2016, might be optimistic about returning to that place.
Shots of Brock Lesnar. He's got so much power in those fists, Mike.
Up against the fence.
In big trouble.
Brock
That's
Lesnar
it.
trying to finish it.
That's it.
Phoenix there, and it is all over.
He's out.
But what if the fight doesn't happen inside the Octagon? Then the wrestling ring is also a very good option. We've seen many UFC stars switching the Octagon for wrestling rings. Stars like Cain Velasquez, Ronda Rousey, and Matt Riddle have switched from MMA to pro wrestling. Maybe Jones can also do that. I'm not too sure, but we can't rule anything out. The most likely and most obvious option for this fight to happen is inside the Octagon. That's the place where both of them became icons.
Fix just needs to secure the right arm. Now he's going for Kimura.
It is all over.
That's it.
John Jones remains the UFC light heavyweight champion.
If both fighters are ready, then no one can stop this fight from happening. And now is the best time for this to happen, because Jon Jones is already a heavyweight fighter. A few years ago, this could have been a huge problem. Lesnar has always been a heavyweight, but Jones hasn't. He's been a light heavyweight all his life, and for him to increase his weight, I mean, it wasn't a viable option. And the same goes for Brock. He would also have never lost so much of his weight just for this one fight. But that's changed now. Weight isn't going to be a problem for those two anymore. Jon Jones is in the heavyweight division and is already the new king there. He's the new UFC heavyweight champion.
UFC heavyweight undisputed champion of the world.
But things aren't the same for Lesnar as they were a few years ago. Lesnar is 45 years old, and it's not easy to do the things you used to do back in the day at this age. Lesnar's last MMA fight was at UFC 200 against Mark Hunt. He won the fight, but the decision was overturned after he failed a drug test. And Lesnar has expressed that he's too old to fight inside the Octagon again. Right now, the future of the fight is still in the air. But it's a good time to talk about one thing though. Who's gonna win if it happens? If that fight happened a few years ago, then this would have been a huge debate. But considering all the facts now, there only seems to be one winner in this fight, and that is Jon Bones Jones. He's having the time of his life inside the Octagon right now. And Brock, well, he hasn't stepped inside the Octagon for just over 7 years now, so there's nothing much to talk about when it comes to who's gonna win. But it still will be a mega event if the fight becomes a reality. That's all for Jon Jones versus Brock Lesnar.